See, the math that you learn in electrical engineering is the basis of most of the AML that you do. Okay. So that way, electrical engineering people learning AML is actually very easy. We have seen this whole cycle of 5G. It's a big team effort, but this requires dedication of the time scales are 10 years. We felt that if we don't attempt to build this, it's always going to be a distant dream.
We do a lot of work with students who come in to campus through this program called Ask IITM. I have heard a lot of parents say that IIT Madras is supposed to be a theoretical campus and they're quite worried about it, or they're like, but when I talk to professors, when I talk to alumni, they seem to have been doing a lot of building.
Hi, this is Amrit. We are at IIT Madras, my alma mater and India's top university for people who like to build. We are here to meet some builders, ask them, what are you building? What does it take to build? And what makes IIT Madras the best place to build?
Hello and welcome to the Best Place to Build podcast. Today we are sitting with Professor Radha Krishna Ganti. He is a professor of electrical engineering at IIT Madras in the field of wireless communication. He's also the 2024 winner of the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, Young Scientist Prize. Is that the right word?
Yes. Yeah.
Congratulations, Professor, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
Professor, we also had Professor Prabhu Raghugopal last year on the podcast, and I think the two of you got the prize together. Must have felt really good, right?
Yeah, it was an absolutely fabulous feeling, but an eerie feeling also. I never expected the prize to come to me. And there was a huge gap of like 1 year before not 1 year, about 8 months before they announced the prize. And it was a sudden surprise. One day I see an email saying that, yeah, you got the prize.
You mean 8 months from the
actual date of from the time the prize was supposed to get announced, it got delayed because of elections last year. So they couldn't announce the prize, and most of us forgot that we have submitted this, and suddenly it was a boom, we got this.
Nice. Congratulations, Professor. There aren't too many prizes for academic life, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Nice. Professor, your work is in the field of wireless communication, a field that I understand really nothing of. I do remember in my first year, I was in mechanical, and my friends in electrical engineering had this project that they would carry one of these Nokia phones around campus with a notepad, and every 20 meters they were supposed to stop and note down the signal strength. That's my last briefing with electrical engineering and wireless communication. So if I may ask, how does wireless communication work?
Okay, so just let me first explain you a little bit about where do you see wireless communication. I'm pretty sure all of you know this. Your cell phones, all of you must have looked at 4G, 5G, at least you must have heard this abbreviations at some point. You're using Wi-Fi, you're using Bluetooth. Yeah, so all of these are wireless communication. Of course, you're getting Tata Sky, you're listening to FM radio. So these are all examples of wireless communication. Essentially, wireless communication deals with how do you transfer data between 2 points, either in space, in a reliable fashion. Okay, when they are not connected by, of course, any physical wired medium. Okay, so it's a very, very challenging thing. Okay, so for example, nowadays, people want to go on high-speed trains that are traveling at 300 kilometers per hour or 150 kilometers per hour and want to watch Netflix or YouTube at those speeds. So how do you even enable this? Okay, it's not such a trivial thing, because when you're transferring data and things are moving so fast, you see a lot of channel effects, what you call channel effects. Essentially, they distort your signal that you send. So our goal is, how do you overcome these distortions? How do you overcome noise but reliably transfer as much information as possible in the shortest amount of time?
Okay, so what I understand is that, say the mics we are using, they are wireless mics. Yes. So there is some information from our voice which is being captured by the mic and wirelessly transmitted.
Yes.
But the challenges increase when there's more data and when the person is moving very fast, as in a train.
So I can give you a few examples. So suppose you are you're in a party, you're talking to each other, but when your friends who are beside you start talking, you have difficulty in hearing.
Yeah.
And now imagine this: there's so many wireless devices around. Yes. So every wireless device wants to talk to its receiver or the base station. Okay. So how do you ensure that all these things go through without any echoes? Okay.
Sure, we've all had this experience where we are at a cricket match or a stadium or a concert and too many cell phones and nobody's getting any signal.
Nobody. So how do you enable that kind of thing? So these are precisely the problems that we try to solve in wireless communication.
Okay. So, Professor, we have heard that IIT Madras has a 5G testbed and it's a very prestigious project. There's a lot of press around it. But can you explain to us what the 5G testbed means? Why is it important?
Okay. So before we get into the 5G testbed, let me take some time and explain first what 5G is. Okay. What are the components that go into it? And then I will tell you why 5G testbed was necessary and what we did in it. Okay. So the two parts of any 5G network, 5G system. One is the 5G network and the other is the 5G cell phones. Okay. So in the 5G network, when you drive around, you see all these base station towers that are there on the top of the towers. You have the small equipment that are put on the top of the towers. Okay. So these are called the 5G base stations. So these consist of radios which transmit and receive signals. They consist of signal processing units which take these signals, digitize them, process them, convert them into bits and IP packets. And on the back end, you have something called the 5G core network. Okay, this data is transmitted from the 5G radio to the 5G core network. Okay, so if you look at the 5G base station, the 5G base station that's there on the top of a tower, okay, it's a very complex piece of equipment. Okay, so there are antennas in it, there are RF chips in it, okay, there are processing units in it. There's lots and lots of software which is signal processing oriented. Okay. That's on the base station. If you look at the core network, so so for the entire south zone of India, there will be one core network or two core networks. Okay, so each core network has to actually handle like hundreds of gigabytes of data per second. Per second, hundreds of gigabytes of data per Gbps of data. Okay, so this is a very, very complex network. Okay, there are maybe like 4 to 5 companies across the world who can build this kind of infrastructure.
These are the Samsung, Ericsson,
Huawei, Nokia's and ZTE. I think there are a few smaller companies, but these are the bigger companies that most of you and they spend billions and billions of dollars on getting this kind of equipment, R&D and building this kind of.
And also they've spent 30-40 years building that.
Absolutely right. They have like Ericsson prices itself saying that it's a 100-year-old company. From the time of Marconi, it built radios. That's its claim.
Is it Marconi's company?
It's not Marconi's company, but they said from that time they have built it. Okay, so around 5 years back, when 5G was getting standardized, we started thinking about how can we build this kind of infrastructure in India. Unfortunately, at that point, there were not almost any companies who are doing this. So most of the faculty who are working in this space got together and we wrote a big proposal to Department of MIT initially and then to Department of Telecom saying that we will build this infrastructure. Okay, so it's a very, very ambitious project. Building this kind of whole infrastructure is like, as I was saying, it's $1 billion projects with like hundreds and hundreds of PhDs working on it. But nevertheless, we felt that if we don't attempt to build this, it's always going to be a distant dream.
If I can just say it in my way, what I've heard you say so far. So, network contains base stations and core network. There are lots of base stations, one core network for many base stations.
Absolutely right.
And the base stations and the core networks, the technology that goes into them is very sophisticated, and really large multinational telecom companies sell these. We don't have a homegrown company.
Yes.
So the challenge from your team was to build that homegrown technology.
Yeah, to build this homegrown technology. So, so essentially 8 institutions got together and we started building components of this. Each of the institute took one part of this. So, for example, Madras took the onus of building the radio part of things. Okay, and also we are the final integrator of all the things.
Okay.
So this required huge teams working together, software teams, hardware teams, embedded systems teams, RF teams, antenna teams to working together to get this thing going.
Fair enough. The number of patents that these companies would have filed just to get that will be in the thousands.
Few thousands easily.
And it's all protected technology. So if you want to rebuild it, you have to rebuild every
everything of us. Okay, so it took us about 4 years. In between, we had, of course, the COVID. We had to go through that whole cycle, and we built that. So so while the project started, it was started as a testbed project. So what was a testbed? Now we'll answer this question.
Yes.
So when we started this project, we thought that we'll build something in the lab scale. Okay, so we'll build these components, not something that you can put in a field, but you can put in the lab, test them out, and also allow outside people to come and test their products, algorithms and ideas on this hardware and software platform that we built. Okay, so this was what the government funded us for. During the course of the project, we realized that, okay, we don't have to build a test bed, we can almost build a product that is close to TRL level 7 or 7.5.
TRL is technology readiness level.
Technology readiness level 7.
And 4 is lab ready.
4 is lab ready, so we can go like 3 notches up. That's something almost close to a field deployment. We said that we will build something of that order.
Okay.
So what we did was we followed all industry practices, the interfaces and everything. We kept what other people did. So we went to a lot of trade shows. We talked to people. We figured out what people wanted. We did. Actually, we did a customer survey effectively to put during these 3 years, and we were able to build that. Okay. So at the end of this project, we had base stations, we had core network that can be deployed anywhere. So for example, in our current campus, we have our own 5G deployment that is there. Not many people know this. We use this to test a lot of algorithms that we develop, a lot of new products that we develop. We test it. Okay. From a testbed perspective, also we were very successful. This is a product perspective. From a testbed perspective, also a lot of startups from India, a lot of companies from India have come and used this facility to test their products.
Okay.
Okay, and fine tune them.
Okay, so the word testbed feels like it's a testing facility that you built, but actually that would have been maybe TRL 4 or 5, but you've actually gone ahead. It's like a 5G pilot.
5G pilot, absolutely. We have done these deployments in some places, I mean, in the country also.
Okay. And
smaller deployments.
I think before this podcast, you told me that India's first 5G call was on this network.
Oh, yeah. So one of the exciting things that happened was almost close to the end of the project. Honorable Minister of Communication at the time was Ashwini Vaishnavji. He came here and made the first 5G phone call in India in our lab. It was a very exciting and a tense time for all of us. I mean, I remember that time. So we were doing this in the research park in a small room. We had this base station put up and cell phone put up. We were expecting that only Ashwini Vaishnavji will come into the room and make a call, but suddenly there's huge rush of reporters and everyone into the room. They started blocking the base station, and my student was sitting at the base station. So he said he was vigorously pointing me. He said the signal is not going through because people are blocking it. So he made the decision that I will increase the transmit power at that time, and minister was able to make the call. And after that, whole system went down for some time. It was a nerve-wracking movement, but nevertheless, it was a very exciting moment that the first 5G phone call was being made with the homegrown technology.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, now of course, but just to clarify this, we have 5G deployment in India via Airtel and Jio.
Yes.
Do they still use the Ericsson? I don't know which company they use.
Yeah.
But they still use foreign equipment.
They still use foreign equipment. Okay, that's the unfortunate thing. See, the thing is, whatever we have done is up to TRL level 7.58. Okay, we require companies in India to take this kind of technology, also develop their own technology. I'm not saying that they have to take this technology and take it to TRL level, whatever is required TRL level. That also requires significant investment.
Yeah.
There are some companies which are now doing it. C-Dot, Tejas Networks. These are some of the companies who are trying to take this kind of technologies to those things. Even Reliance has its own, does build its base stations. I think in the future they may deploy it.
Fair enough. You're saying that from an academia point of view, this is the farthest we can go.
Yeah.
And then some companies have to take that and push it into product. Fair enough. Professor, one thing that we glossed over, what is 5G, 4G, 3G, 2G, 6G, and what is G?
Okay, so this is a very interesting question. So who defines 5G, or who defines, for that sake, 4G or 6G? Okay. So not many people know this. We just generally use 5G in a very colloquial sense, saying that, oh, my phone is upgraded from 4G to 5G. What exactly is 5G? So every cycle of generation, G stands for generation, takes about 10 years. Okay, so 2020 to 2030 is the 5G fifth generation. 2030 to 2040 would be the sixth generation. Okay, so what makes a technology or a device 5G technology? So this is where International Telecom Union comes into picture. ITU, what we call ITU. ITU is a UN body. So that its main job is to regulate spectrum. This is so essentially you also heard of spectrum allocations. No?
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a huge amount of money that
This is the microwave segment which cell phones can use commercially.
Okay. So for example, in 5G, Reliance uses 3.4 to 3.5 gigahertz bandwidth. So they bought it from the government. Okay. So before this bought it, the government has to allocate the spectrum. So this spectrum has to be harmonized across multiple countries for lots of technical reasons. Okay. So this harmonization is done by ITU. That's its main, one of the main jobs.
Sure, this is easy to understand because it's not like I bought it means I can lock it up. It's in the air. So if I bought a license, it means that somebody has to make sure nobody else is using it. So
absolutely right. Okay. And when you're close to borders of other countries, I mean, there may be interference, so that things have to be aligned in some broad sense. Okay. So in addition to that, ITU also defines what every generation has to be. What does it mean by define means? It tells that for a technology to be 5G, it has to have this much data rate. Okay, it has to support these many devices. Okay, it has to have this much latency.
okay, so a 5G base station will be a 5G base station if it adheres to certain standards.
KPIs, key performance indicators.
KPIs.
There are about 20, almost close to 20 KPIs.
Suddenly it sounds very corporate.
It's KPI, it's called KPI, key performance indicator. That's the parallel also that IT uses. Okay, so it's also very interesting. So we had a huge journey on for 5G in ITU. Okay, let me explain you a little bit of this in this.
Professor, before that,
Yeah.
can you give me one example? Like for instance, say number of connections.
Okay.
How has it moved? How has the standard moved from say 2G to 3G to 4G to 5G?
Okay, so before the number of connections, I have to tell you one technical point. So let's look at the bandwidth first. So in the bandwidth of 2G was about a couple of megahertz,
Okay.
about close to 2 megahertz or so. Okay, 4G it became 20 megahertz per carrier. So per operator, that's what I'm saying. Okay, 4G it became 20 megahertz. 5G it's 100 megahertz. Okay, so now you can see that the bandwidth is increasing. As the bandwidth increases, you can see that the number of users can also increase because you are having more space to accommodate them, effectively more space in the spectrum to accommodate. So you can see approximately a 5x time, I mean, it won't be 5x in the exact sense, but up close to 5x number of users can latch on to 5G than compared to 4G because the spectrum is larger.
Okay. This is like it's a bigger highway.
Bigger highway, okay. And the technology by itself, what it will do is, with your analogy of highway, it will make the roads much more smoother so you can go faster.
Okay.
Okay, so they have technologies like MIMO technology. It's called massive multiple input, multiple output technology. The better FEC codes and the error correction codes in this. So all these things ensure that the highway you can go much more faster in the same 100 megahertz bandwidth. Okay. So essentially, what ITU said was that the speed of 5G should be like almost like 3 times of 4G.
Okay.
Okay, and the number of users will be 4 or 5 times that of 4G.
Nice.
So this is what ITU defines. Okay, ITU also defines what are the use cases of 5G also. It says that you have to have very high bandwidth, enhanced, it's called EMBB, enhanced mobile broadband. Okay, so that's what 5G does. You have higher bandwidth.
I just realized that in the beginning you said something about a person in a train watching Netflix.
Yes.
That sounds like a use case.
That sounds like a use case. So this comes from the requirements that ITU defines. So ITU says that the technology should support up to 500 kilometers per hour mobility.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the KPI.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the difference. So in for 4G it was about 120 kilometers per hour. In 5G it's 500 kilometers per hour. In 6G they're talking about 1200 kilometers per hour. Because people moving on the aeroplane should get.
I just want to say that no train in India moves
So
at 500.
I know this. So
Sounds like a Shanghai problem.
exactly. I mean, you're on the spot. So this requirement came from our neighboring country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean? Like,
So what does it mean? So every country gets their requirements to ITU. Okay, saying that, okay, for 5G, I'll take the example of 5G. Okay, we want these many devices to be connected. We want the speeds to be this. Okay, we want this particular use case for telemedicine to be enabled.
Possible.
Okay, so one of the 5G has multiple verticals. I was saying, one is broadband space. The other is something called IoT, massive machine type communication. Essentially, thousands or millions of devices should be allowed on the network, which transmit small amounts of data, sensors. Okay, there is something called ultra reliable communication in 5G. Okay, this is to have 5G in factory floors. Okay, or do remote medicine. Okay, so where the reliability of your link will be like 5 nines. Okay, and you have very low latency, so you can play video games. I mean, essentially, it's like if you play video games on a 4G network, you see a lot of jitter.
Okay, so I hear you. You are saying that there are wide variety of use cases. It's not just about how fast you move or how many connections are there, but sometimes there's a reliability issue. Sometimes you need to have millions of small devices, maybe like EVs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Need to be online.
Or your smart meters.
Smart meters. Yeah, India has a smart meter transition happening. That's going to add like 200 million.
After you can see the numbers.
200 million
IoT devices. So.
Yeah. Oh, so those IoT devices will be connecting directly to a 5G
network. Okay.
Okay.
So,
but you said that the country presents. So who in a country presents?
So let me tell you this example from India. So one of the things that we felt from Indian perspective was that rural coverage is very important. Okay, so because if you look at Indian population, still a significant amount of population is in the rural area. Okay, the question is, how do you cover them? How do you provide 5G coverage to them? Okay, there are multiple ways of doing this. One thing you should understand is we are a price sensitive economy, and top of that, the revenues that you get from rural areas is on the lower side. So there's not too much incentive for companies to place too many base stations in the rural areas to cover everything. Okay? So we came up with this idea that we want to place one base station in the Gram Panchayat, and the Gram Panchayats, from there the base station should cover a large area. The neighboring villages,
okay, so
3-4 villages around it.
Area of the base station itself becomes a specification.
That's one thing that ITU specifies. Okay.
So India would push for a higher
radius of coverage. So we went. Okay. So essentially what happens is Department of Telecom participates in ITU. So
when you say we, you mean Department of Telecom?
We as representatives through Department of Telecom go there. Okay. So we took this idea. Myself and a bunch of other folks took this idea, and we went to ITU saying that we want this kind of large coverage. Okay, and as maybe you can expect, there was a huge pushback towards it, saying that we will not allow this kind of a thing. Okay, because from the Western side, from the Western notion of things, this coverage is not a very critical thing. For them, it's higher speeds, lower latencies. These are the things that make things exciting. But from an Indian perspective, I mean, if you don't have coverage, what is the point of having all of other fancy things?
Is it fair for me to say that if a country which doesn't need this feature allows their country to have those features, then they have to invest extra for an extra
Maybe
feature?
have to invest, or there may be, because there's, see, other countries have companies in it, they call.
Oh, so it becomes like a political.
It's political, commercial issues. So, but we persisted. I mean, it took us about almost close to 2.5 years of fight with lots of countries, I mean, engagements with a lot of countries to push this specific idea into ITU.
Okay.
It's called LMLC, low mobility large cell. It's called low mobility large cell for coverage. Large cell, you understand, when
Yes.
Okay.
Because cell phone tower, the
cell size increases. Okay, so we pushed that into this. Okay, and then what happened was we developed technologies for this. So it's all a continuation of this thing. So now in 6G we are trying to improve this coverage.
Okay, so from an academic perspective, from an academician's perspective, you are involved in the standardization, but also identifying what are the use cases that India needs,
Yes.
then negotiating with other countries that this should be in the global standard, and then once it's in the global standard, you're further involved in the actual
Building the
technology,
stuff.
building
the
technology.
technology. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a, I mean, so
It's a lot for me to breathe. But
yeah, we have, I mean, have seen this whole cycle of 5G. See, it's a big team effort. It's a big team effort, but this requires dedication of like the time scales are 10 years. You see the whole technology come in approximately 10 years. So now we had started this whole journey for 6G, right?
Right. So when Honorable Minister Ashwini Vaishnav makes one phone call here, that's actually representing a huge tenure
Huge tenure effect.
and maybe many PhD students, many faculties. I think you said 8 centers.
8 centers across multiple institutions. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that patient explanation. Professor, there was a point where we were talking about, I think maybe in our preparation call, we were talking about BSNL and the deployment of the BSNL network.
Okay.
And I found it very interesting. Can you just share that?
Okay. Let me start with this. A lot of people don't know what is happening with BSNL 4G. Okay. We have this habit saying that BSNL, why hasn't BSNL come up with 4G? It has come up with 4G, but there's a nice, interesting story behind this whole thing. So BSNL was delayed in deploying 4G. We have to agree with it because a lot of other issues which are not technical in nature.
Yeah, the political issue.
Political issues in nature. Okay. Then at some point the government decided that BSNL has to get into 4G, and so the BSNL tender was floated. And at that point, what happened was not many Indian companies were able to get into the tender for a variety of reasons. Okay, because
newer companies, less of
they had
proof of technology.
Proof of technology was not there effectively. Okay. So at that point, our neighboring countries, I mean, a lot of our networks come from our neighboring countries. I don't want to name the country, you know who it is.
I mean, there is only one neighboring country which has the capability of.
Yes. So at that point, what happened was Galwan attack happened.
Okay.
Okay, so during that time, Galwan attack happened, and the government made a very right decision, saying that our network should be secure, which is very, very important, and we should build this completely homegrown. Okay, so actually, it's a very, very bold decision by the government. I mean, you're understanding these networks cost like tens of billions of dollars. These are not like a few hundred crores. Also, it's like tens of thousands of crores. Okay. They made a very bold decision, and because of that, what happened was they said that only whatever we deploy in BSNL network has to be coming from completely from India.
Okay.
So this was the premise with which BSNL deployments have started.
So these are two decisions. One is that no purchase from a country bordering with a land border to India. And second is that BSNL will be using only completely homegrown
technologies.
But this was at a time when there was no complete homegrown technology.
There was no, exactly. So, they were also very patient. So we had some things, but it was not at the scale at which you can do a commercial deployment. Okay. So then they called for a proof of concept. Okay. They formed, so essentially what companies also understood was that individually none of the companies had the money power or the technology prowess to do the entire system. So they themselves formed like 2 consortiums, consists of multiple companies, and these consortiums actually, so one of the consortium, for example, had Tatas in it. So that gives you a lot of power, you understand, a lot of economical power.
Thousands of crores
of investment is required. Okay. So these consortiums then went to said that they went to the POC, proof of concept places, and then they started putting things together. So finally one of the consortium got chosen. Okay.
So the current BSNL deployment is completely Indian?
Completely Indian. Okay. It's made by Tata, Tejas Networks, and Tata Telecommunication, C-Dot. C-Dot is providing the core, Tatas are providing the radios and taking care of the entire infrastructure. Okay. So this is like a very, very, very big deal. Okay. So we have.
How many countries have their own?
I mean, maybe 3 countries have their own companies to do this.
South Korea, China, India.
South Korea, China, US also doesn't have their own infrastructure company. They get it from Ericsson or Nokia.
Ericsson is a European.
Nokia
is also European.
Both, yeah. So Europe, Korea, now India, China. So that's you can see that's a feather in the cap.
Yes. Professor, this got very serious very fast.
Okay, fine.
I'm sorry, I have to dial this down a bit. We spoke about standards, we spoke about what it means for the country and all of that. Maybe we can dial back a bit. You are a professor of electrical engineering, and I'm curious to know, all this sounds very fancy, but I'm curious to know when I was a student, we were attracted by, rockets and planes and things that move, robots. And so, you would see a plane and you'd think, oh, I'll join aeronautical engineering. What is for young people, and maybe if you can reflect on your own experience, what is the driving force in electrical engineering? What is those things which really exciting about
So electrical is a very big field. Okay, so electrical engineering covers all the way from motors, transformers, power generation, all the way to wireless communication, quantum mechanics. There's so many. I'm going to focus, since I work on wireless communication, I'm going to answer this question from that perspective. Okay. See, every day we use our cell phone, we use our laptops. We are in the digital world. Yes. Anywhere, any time a bit gets consumed and a bit gets generated, you have some, isn't it because of some engineer from electrical engineering? Okay, there is no second guessing. It's not mechanical, it's not aerospace, it's electrical. Okay, so here you talk about information. Electrical engineering, specifically wireless communication, talks about information propagation, information storage, information retrieval. This is exactly the world we live in, information. Okay, so what excites me? Okay, so if you take two chips, so you have processors in your thing. Okay, you have USB stick. Okay, every day you put something in the USB stick, and then you want to transfer your photos from USB stick to this, and you have gone across USB 2, USB 3. Speeds are going up. How does this happen? How does speed go up, and what is the thing that we are doing? Why does the speed go up? Okay, it's because like there's 1,000 engineers who are working on that particular technology to increase your speed. Okay, you're talking about image processing. For example, image processing is not wireless. Okay. So all this stuff happens in electrical engineering. So electrical engineering is the field to be, not computer science, not AI. So, okay, saying that, see, there's a lot of fundamental work we do in electrical engineering. Okay, so a lot of LLMs, a lot of, neural networks that you see, what people are attracted. The basis, the foundational math is actually done in electrical engineering. Okay, so whatever signal processing is the foundation of, I think, the modern economy. You cannot deny it.
Yeah,
and the basis for this happens in electrical engineering.
I think as you're saying it, I remember this term called SNR, signal to noise ratio, which is now used in the business world, but it's actually a very engineering term.
It's a very communication term.
Yeah,
signal power by noise power. Yes, so it comes from us.
Yes. So remove the noise and join elect. I hear you. But it's also considered, and especially at IIT Madras, it's considered to be a difficult course. Why does it have that reputation?
Okay, so I was
true. Is it difficult?
It's no longer true. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
So it's not difficult. It's interesting. I'll put that. So see, this is a difficult technologies. These are difficult things to learn, but the journey is interesting. That's more important. It's not that as professors we make it tough for the students to pass the exams or make their life difficult by giving difficult question papers. That's not what we do. See, electric engineering is unique in that way. It's just not practice. There's a lot of theory associated with electric engineering. So to do wireless communication, you have to have a very deep understanding of probability theory. You have to have an understanding of linear algebra, calculus. So when you understand all these things, then you start appreciating what wireless. So for the first 2 years of when I did course in wireless, for first 2 years I was doing theory after theory. At some stage I thought, where is wireless in this? It took me another 4 or 5 years to understand how wireless and all these things fit together. Okay, so there's a huge math component associated with electrical engineering. Okay, that is the reason why people feel, oh, it's tough, but it's not tough. It's actually interesting. These are exactly, so you do a lot of problems for JE, all those sophisticated math problems, calculus problems, combinatorial problems, probability problems. Where exactly do you use that? You use that in electrical engineering. Every day I use that.
Very interesting. So you're saying that before you come to the more visible parts of electrical, there's a lot of math that you have to...
Rigorous training, that's what I put it as.
Rigorous training.
Yes, so, but it's fun.
Okay, I hear you. I do remember reading about information theory and things like that. It was not in my coursework. I did some graph theory, which I was very bad at. So, but I get what you're saying. It's tough, it's fun, it's a little long journey, and then it becomes very exciting very quickly.
See, one good thing is when you do all this, getting into any other field is also very easy. Okay, so people who understand this kind of all these things that we do in wireless can easily jump into machine learning, can easily jump into any other, computer science for that sake.
Students today only want to ask, can I go to quant finance after this?
Even that, because you learn probability. Most of the quant, probability, statistics are something that fundamental to our wireless community. We teach them. So,
and I think at least when I was a student here, Professor Ashok Junjunwala was teaching, and Professor Bhaskar Ramuti was teaching, and there were a lot of there's a lineage of really great, respected electrical engineering professors. I mean, the department has this. I don't. They must have been professors for you, right?
Yes, yes. Both of them have taught me. Professor Ashok taught me communication systems, and Professor Bhaskar also taught me communication. We both took that course.
Nice.
I remember that. Yeah. So essentially, the work that we are doing now, in some sense, the mindset has been established by Professor Ashok and Professor Bhaskar 20 years back. I mean, maybe 3 decades back. Okay. So they were the first ones actually to build this wireless in local loop. I mean, essentially, they took the bold, they made this bold attempt of building stuff during 20 years back when things were more restrictive in India, when things were not available in India. They took that thing and they were very successful also in that.
In the late 90s.
In the late 90s, yeah. And because of that, the group that they have built and the people whom they have nurtured also have this thought of building stuff. It's just not only theory, but building stuff is very, very important right now. And I think the genesis of this came from what Professor Ashok and Professor Bhaskar established like 2 decades back.
I remember hearing stories about how WLL as a concept, we were far ahead. Of course, from a technology point of view, WLL was competing with CDMA, right?
With GSM.
With GSM.
Yeah.
And GSM is the technology that eventually
Became 2G.
became really big.
Yeah.
And I guess WLL, I don't know, is it still used now?
So, at that point, WLL and 2G came roughly around the same time. So, we bet on WLL and we built a technology. It's a very, very nice technology. It worked well. It scaled up very well. There were some countries that have actually deployed WLL also. But from a global perspective, 2G took over at some point in that decade. 2G took over, and because it had a lot of big backing from bigger, deeper pockets, ultimately it won. But nevertheless, what happened was that also proved that we were able to build world-class technologies at that time even. Okay, with very, very little resources, we were able to do that, and we were able to show commercial deployments.
Of course, the teams gain a lot of competency and they move on.
Yeah. So these are the same people who now join companies and who are building 4Gs and 5Gs right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Actually, in the technology world, there are a lot of these competing technologies that have come at the same time. I remember Blu-ray versus DVD. That was a big thing in data storage, and of course USB-C versus. So anyway, it's okay. It's fine. I got it. I remember that Professor Bhaskar taught. I didn't take any electrical engineering class. I think we had one EE 110. I have a very hilarious story I'd like to share. I tell it to Professor Bhaskar whenever we meet. He was, of course, the director. So when I joined, Professor Anand was the director. Professor Bhaskar was this celebrated professor who doesn't have time for undergrad students. But he did take 8 classes for us, a small section of a course. And the story I have, his classes, everybody came. There were no proxies, nobody missed the class, and it was full house, and everybody was super quiet because he's speaking, and he speaks in a very a voice that you want to listen to. What happened was, we are sitting in this class and there's a parliamentary fan which fell on a student. There's utter silence and everybody is looking at the fan. And then that student had to be carried to the hospital. And Professor Bhaskar looked at the class after that. Student left, and he said that when he was a child, he used to be worried that a fan would fall on his head. It's a hilarious memory I have of Professor Bhaskar.
So, Professor Bhaskar, he is one of the person who understands wireless and communication in general in a very, very deep manner. So, we have been teaching classes with Professor Bhaskar. So, I'll just tell you an anecdote. So, we both were setting the question paper. Okay, Professor one of the exams, DSP actually. So, Professor Bhaskar said, RK, let's set up this exam paper a little bit less, not so tough this time. Let's make it easy. I said, fine, Professor Bhaskar, why don't you give me your questions? Okay. So, he sends me a bunch of questions that he was using when we were students. Okay. That's when I realized that that his operating point is at a very, very, very high level. His easiest questions are like 10 times more tougher than my tougher questions. So I had to recalibrate the whole thing. And see, I mean, even now I learn a lot of things from him. I mean, any conversation I have, it's like he's a mentor. He's a mentor for me, and so much technically and even otherwise also I learn from him.
Oh, but this is the kind of depth you need to be able to represent India at a global level and
Absolutely.
have that negotiation and build that technology. Amazing. Professor, can I just dial back? You were also a student here from,
Yes.
I think, 98 to 2002. Is that right?
99 to 2004, I was dual degree. Yeah.
How come you joined IIT Madras? What is your story? How was your student years?
Okay. So, I mean, why?
Which hostel were you in?
Okay, first let's start with that. I'm in Saraswati hostel.
Okay, I was in Tapti.
Tapti, okay. So I'll start with one more thing. I was the only undergrad who had a single room at that time.
Is it?
Yes, so
Wow.
I was the only lucky guy. I joined actually mechanical engineering. Okay, then after the first semester I did a branch change to electrical. Then after 4 years I did a change to from BTech to dual degree. Okay, at that point I should have bought some land in Velachery. I retired at that point. So. Yeah, but nevertheless, this is this was my academic
just
year.
to qualify that comment for everyone watching. At the time when we were in campus in 2000 or so, IIT Madras was in Gindi, is still in Gindi, but it was considered like the south edge of the city.
Exactly.
And now the city has moved 20 kilometers further south. So
Now this is the
whole
center
area
of the city.
It's the center of the city. Yeah.
So it was fun. It was a great place to be. I mean, I had a lot of fun. So I play basketball. I used to play basketball. Even now I play for staff team.
Okay.
Okay. So I used to maintain our IIT Madras website at that point.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. I used to maintain IIT Madras website. So fun-filled years, 4 years of fun. Okay. And I was not such a studious guy. Okay. Good memories. You should put it that way.
But you chose to go abroad, right? And
Yeah.
then you came back to IIT.
Yeah. So after IIT Madras, I went to University of Notre Dame for my PhD in electrical engineering. So that point, it used to be very famous for there was a few professors there who were very good at error correction codes. I went there, did something else wireless. I also did a master's in applied mathematics at the same simultaneously.
This sounds like a theoretical thing, and maybe something else also you said earlier that I was thinking about this, about going from TRL 4 to 7. You're moving from a theoretical domain, and you also mentioned that electrical engineering has a lot of math, and there's a lot of work to be done in the math side of it, and there's a lot of work to be done in the system side. So I think, can you explain that switch from like a theoretical view of the subject to a...
So as I was telling you before, wireless specifically has a lot of math in it. Okay, so you go on doing a lot of lots and lots of math. Only when you start building systems, you understand where this whole math fits in. Okay, so what I did was, after my PhD, when I went to as a postdoc to UT Austin for a couple of years, during that time I started tinkering with something called software defined radios. Okay, so essentially these are hardware where there's a lot of programmability in it. So in that I started implementing a few of the wireless algorithms that we have designed into those systems. That is the first time I have started dabbling with systems. Okay, but even after I came back to IIT Madras, primarily I was doing a lot of theory, but the good thing with IIT Madras is that faculty work closely a lot. Okay, so I was able to get I was able to get in touch with a few more faculty in the RF domain, and then we started exploring some problems where there's systems aspects of things and theory aspects of things. Okay, so I started doing the theory and he started doing the systems part of it, and then we started learning from each other. Okay, it took me about 2.5 years to get comfortable in building basic systems. Okay. Of course, you should have it. So one thing I want to tell is, actually once I started building the system, that's when I realized that actually systems is, there's not too much difference between this. So if you're good at one, you will always be good at the other. People have this weird notion that I'm a guy who will only can do math and not build stuff. I mean, nowadays I strongly disapprove that. It's just that you have not tinkered with stuff. Once the moment you start tinkering with it, then you realize that similar kind of thought processes hold in systems engineering. Okay, systems engineering is where you actually build stuff, understand the practical aspects of things, and from there design your algorithms.
Sure. So, for example, if I'm working on an error correction algorithm, that's a theoretical thing. But if I then try to put it into a 5G test bed or something like that, that's the application of it. There's a lot of system thinking that.
Yes. So I can tell you, this is a beautiful example. So you have designed an error correction code. Okay. For example, you have come up with theory. Okay. So when you start implementing it, in real time, you'll have a lot of constraints in terms of how you can implement it. Saying that, for example, your data has to be processed in 0.2 milliseconds, for example. Okay. Maybe you have developed a theory which requires a longer time to process, but gives you good results. Maybe you have to cut down some parts of the algorithm, or you have to modify some parts of the algorithm, so you meet the latency requirements or the processing requirements. Okay. So essentially when you start doing this, you will start getting a rich set of problems that you can work even in theory.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you for that. As you were saying it, we do a lot of work with students who come in to campus through this program called Ask IITM. And as you were saying it, I have heard a lot of parents say that IIT Madras is supposed to be a theoretical campus, and they're quite worried about it, or they're like, but when I talk to professors, when I talk to alumni, they seem to have been doing a lot of building.
So, see, actually, that's a completely wrong statement. Okay, pardon me. Actually, IIT Madras is one place where we build so many stuff. No other IIT does anything close to this. In wireless, I'm very confident, but I'm also sure in other fields, we do lots and lots of building, actually more than any other IIT. Okay, saying that, about a decade back, people were more focused on papers, people were focused on research, but now the whole trend is changing. Most of the faculty are involved in some kind of systems work, either with industry or by themselves. Okay, and we build a lot of cool stuff here.
Nice. Okay? That's why we say best place to build.
Yes, it's the best place to build. I totally agree with you.
Professor, because we were talking about Ask IITM, one question that we face from parents also is, what is the difference between EE, EEE and ECE?
Okay, EE, Triple E and ECE.
Triple E and ECE, okay. Yeah. Because colleges use these different terminologies.
Okay, so at least in the conventional parallel in terminology, EE stands for electrical engineering, which consists of mainly machines and transformers, power electronics and this kind. Triple E consists of the same thing except that you add electronics to it, analog electronics to it. ECE is electronics plus communication. Okay, so this is the standard differentiation that happens in most of the other institutions other than IIT. So in IITs, we call everything under the one umbrella of electrical engineering. So for example, in IIT Madras, electrical engineering consists of power electronics and power systems. We have VLSI, we have devices which work with solid state devices, we have circuits, we have optical, and we have communication theory. Okay, so all of this together is called electrical engineering in IIT Madras. So people can do anything they want.
They could, I guess, as they grow interest, they would.
Yeah. And also one thing is all the problems we solve are multidisciplinary in nature these days. Now it's not like one person can solve. Okay. So for example, in my team, I have mechanical engineers. Why? Because we develop these radios that you put on the top of a tower. Okay. There is no cooling there. It has to be cooled by the wind. Okay, and you cannot put fans there because if fans get stuck with mud, you can't go up to the top of tower every day and repair them. So how do you cool a system like a radio which transmits a lot of heat, because power amplifiers are there which convert a lot of electrical power to thermal power. So how do you cool that? So a lot of our design has thermal management in it. So it's a very interdisciplinary work.
I have this question written here. I'm going to ask it as I've written it. Does life get too intense? Is there time to do anything else? I mean, maybe because you are an electrical engineering student also. So maybe you can give it from a student and a faculty perspective.
Okay. So from a faculty perspective, see, once you do something that you enjoy, even if it takes more time or is it stressful, you still live with it, and at the end you have fun with it. Okay, so I enjoy what I'm doing. Okay, there's a lot of work that, enormous amount of work that I do, but I enjoy what I do. Okay, and I see the outcomes of it also, which are very nice, useful. So if you don't enjoy what you are doing, it does not matter, even if it's very light, you start hating it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the thing. You should enjoy what you are doing. If you enjoy it, you automatically end up doing more of it. Whether you like it or not, you end up doing that. Okay. From a student's perspective, I think I'm just talking from electrical engineering. It's not that intensive. There's a lot of time to do a lot of stuff here. I see students participate in so many other activities. This is the place. A lot of CFI, for example, a lot of electrical engineering students are here.
Yeah.
It's not that it's very intensive. Okay, is that you should be focused. Focus is different from being intense.
Yeah. I think as a professor, but definitely as a student, there are more opportunities than you can actually do, and then you have to sort of pick and choose. And
I think this electrical engineering had this whole folklore that is tough from the time from when I joined. When I joined as a student, also they used to say, "Why did you do a branch change to electrical engineering? Are you crazy?" Kind of this thing. Even there were some courses, for example, analog electronics. Okay, where even before we went to the class, our seniors used to tell, "Oh, this is the most toughest course in the world. You cannot." So people, teachers are so tough. They cite you, by the time you go there, you'll be sweating, but nothing of that sort happens. It's actually very cool and nice. Yeah.
Nice. I guess if you don't enjoy it, then you'll feel this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Professor, last question and question to everyone in the world today. How is AI and ML affecting? How is the evolution in your field?
Okay. I told you before. So, neural networks were the basis of AI ML. Yes. So neural networks have been done in electrical engineering from the time when I was just writing the projects on neural network with Professor Chakrabarti. I forgot the name of the Professor Chakrabarti. Okay. So, so we have, the math that you learn in electrical engineering is the basis of most of the AML that you do. Okay. So that way, electrical engineering people learning AML is actually very easy. Okay. Saying that AML is there everywhere. Nowadays, you cannot escape not using AML. So even in my field of wireless, AML is coming into picture. Okay. Now we are looking at AML to build, you are talking about error correction codes. Earlier, people used to build error correction codes. Okay. So now we are trying to use AML to build error correction codes. We are trying AML to do decoding. Okay. So people are trying to use AML to do a lot of stuff, but saying that the domain knowledge, it's not like generic AML. It's not like I can use ChatGPT to do this. Okay. I have to fine tune my networks and other things in such a way that it works to my problem. So their domain knowledge is absolutely necessary. Okay. So it's a combination of domain knowledge and AML. I think that is where things are headed, and that's a path to success.
So it's like a tool in a journey that's anyway going in that.
Yeah, it's a tool.
Every specification in the 5G list would have a corresponding set of features, and every feature would be probably better. Maybe AI/ML can improve it a better. Is that
a little bit? Okay. So one thing that is very unique to wireless. Okay, maybe I'll take a minute and explain you this. In wireless, theory came before practice. Okay, so I don't know. There's a gentleman called Shannon. Claude Shannon. Okay, so he found this whole information that you're talking about information theory. Huh? So the information theory gave something very special. It said that it gave you bounds. It said that the maximum capacity of a channel is so and so. Because what does this imply? Okay, from a practical perspective, it says that if I'm communicating to you, the maximum rate of communication is maybe 30 bits per second per hertz. Okay, so that is a goal. 30 bits is my goal. So from the last 50 years, people have been working to reach that limit. You cannot beat that limit. It's impossible. Even with AI/ML or with anything, you cannot beat the limit. That's the limit. Okay. So people have been working to reach this goal. So unlike other fields, if you employ AI/ML network here in wireless, you know exactly where you are with respect to the best. So you'll be judged more critically in this field compared to other fields. It's just not, you cannot build something random and say it works. That's not sufficient here. You have to tell me how far are you from what Shannon has given.
So mechanical equivalent would be Carnot's
efficiency cycle. Yeah. If your AML beats that, builds an engine that beats it, then it cannot beat it. It cannot beat it. So it's a question of how close you are.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Professor, this was fantastic. I think I have exhausted my questions. I'm really grateful that you spent the time with us. You've invited us to your lab, so we'll visit your lab later.
Absolutely.
And take a look at all the things that you've spoken about.
Sure, absolutely. I'll show you. I'm happy to show you around.
Thank you.
Thank
Professor.
you.